last time. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in this brilliant session that we have planned out for all of you readers. This session is all about mind maps. And when I hear the word mind map, I can't think of anyone else than Sathya, in the sense of he is the OG of mind maps. He has been doing this for 15 years. So when the requirement came that, let me learn mind maps, let me apply mind maps and help my readers also to gain expertise on mind maps. I said, let's get Sathya. Now, one thing very novel about Sathya, and if you follow his profile, in fact, Sathya, in the meanwhile, you can share your social media profile links of Twitter and LinkedIn. You will see how he's sharing digital mind maps. And digital mind maps is brilliant. It's so influential. The moment you see, and especially for a book you have already read, it just makes you remember your memory of the book. And it's so great, right? If someone else's mind map could help you recall the book in one quick instance, imagine if you built that mind map and how much you will be able to reinforce the book. And let's be very honest, and everyone over here has experienced it. I'm no saint here. We forget a lot of books, and that is natural part of process. Ebbinghaus forgetting curve was discovered in 1880 something, where you forget 50% of the things you learn within a day. So your knowledge itself has half life within a day itself. So you can very well imagine that over a period of time, how much it can degrade. And the only way to fight against it, how only way to overcome that, is to continuously refresh, reinforce. Which is why on the weekends there are no portions to read new. It's rather to refresh your knowledge. Which is also why Readwise as a tool is indispensable. Once you've got used to it, you will become indispensable in terms of how that service works for you. So that's why Mind Maps 101, which is offline one, which Sathya will be, getting you introduced to. And the part two is going to be where he gets you into the digital mind maps, And I'm pretty certain once you get used to making mind maps on your own, you will be very eager to build those digital ones. So I won't have to remind you of part two whenever it happens. You will be the one who will be saying, when is it? When is it? So let's get Sathya on board. And he is someone I admire a lot on his social media profile. He's been building a very brilliant app called yvisuals.app. You can check out the website. In fact, he is now, he's integrated AI into it. So you just have to give one prompt to yvisuals and it can create a visual on its own. Like, how cool is that? You found that a cool thought. Do one favor to me, drop it in the chat. How cool that is. You want to give it a try, Satya, you can drop your Y Visuals website link on the chat itself. And don't try it right now, okay? Please stay focused on the session, but after that, you can try and create your own visuals in a click. Of course, give a nice prompt. So let's get Satya on board. Satya is a published author. He's an information designer and a serial entrepreneur. He recently sold one of his apps as well, but maybe he will shed some more light on it. As a visual thinking evangelist, he is championing the visual first approach to thinking, learning, and communicating, bringing in 15 plus years of experience into this development and education sector. He offers visual coaching and consulting with a mission to help 1,000 plus founders and creative entrepreneurs to leverage visual thinking and learning strategies to build and grow their businesses. He's a founder of Visual OS Education and Co. And he's right here to go and share all his insights on mind maps. Without further ado, Satya, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Aniket. You make it sound big, but I hope I live up to that expectation. If you guys don't mind, you can turn on the video if that is not an issue. That's one thing. And, just to get it started, I believe you have a notebook or a pen and a paper or something like that. So you can show it if you have something like that. So I have this one on my hand. Like, can you show it to us? Can you show it? I preferably use a black pen. Oh, Aniket is fancy. I I could say Ritika. Varsha is already ready with the pen, so I believe she has. So yeah. So we'll start with the digital. We'll talk about digital mind mapping per se a little bit afterwards, but we'll start with the concept of mind mapping itself. Um, if you don't mind, in the chat, if you have already tried mind mapping earlier, either for book notes or for preparing something, project planning, anything like that, just give a thumbs up or say yes. If you haven't, just say no on the chat. Yes, Aniket has obviously tried it. I've tried it for my studies. Puneet, fantastic. Pramod has tried it. Ritik has tried it. Roshan haven't tried it. Aditi haven't tried it. Varsha haven't tried it. No, okay, fine. Good. Okay. Okay, I'll keep this in mind. So I'm going to start sharing this one. Yeah, I'll show you a few examples of mind mapping summaries that I've taken. Then subsequently we can go into it. So this is a mind mapping summary of 6 lessons from a guy called Justin Welch. So you might have heard of it. He's like a LinkedIn like content creator, very famous. So there's a bunch of lessons that he has written a lot of articles. So I started taking those articles and made some note about it. Aniket, can you see the image that I'm showing? 6 lessons from Justin Welch.
A little bit of a zoom would help.
Yeah. Then another mind map. So this is from another famous creator, educator. His name is Jay Close. So he talks about 7 design tips for non-designer. I'm not a designer, so he wrote a Twitter thread and a LinkedIn post about it. Then I thought that I should take a mind map of it so that I can digest what he's talking about and basically try to understand what he's trying to say. So this is another mind map that I try to do. This is another mind map that I made from a guy called KP, Karthik. So what he talks about is how you can build in public tips for newbies, people who are starting to grow their social media account either on Twitter or LinkedIn. So these are all the ideas. He has this concept of building in public. So write to express, not impress, be authentic and write like you talk, etc., etc. So these are all the points that are taken. Then this is another mind map that I created for a workshop that I did long back. So how to grow on Twitter using visuals. So the usual way, the visual way, philosophy, and all those things. And I use this mind map as my presentation tool for sharing my thoughts and ideas to the participants who came. This is another mind map that I made for a client. So the client was a startup founder, founders actually, a couple of them, and they were thinking of how to grow their LinkedIn audience. And I was trying to give them suggestions on what are all the ways that you can look at creating content, unique content about themselves. This is a recent mind map that I created of a book called Make by Peter Levels. He's an indie hacker, indie maker. He has built beautiful apps, wonderful apps, and he wrote this amazing book. And the book itself is like 200 pages long or something like that. And I took some pointers from it, made a quick read, took notes. Then I can't go and reread the book, so I wanted pointers from the book so that I can refer it quickly, etc., etc. So he talks about the ethics of making, how to launch, where to launch. You launch it on a startup website, you launch it on mainstream press like Forbes, share it on Reddit, Twitter, like that. So, okay. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah. So where to launch it, etc., etc. So he talks about this. So this is a book summary mind map. Then this is a mind map, and I'm thinking currently about what are all the products that I could create about mind mapping. There's another thing for a podcast. There's a podcast between Tanmay Vora, he's another sketchnoter and a leadership developer, and a good friend of mine and a mentor, Joseph Jude. He runs a podcast. He's a host for this podcast, and I took notes from the podcast itself. I made this into a mind map, a digital mind map. This is another thing from Joseph Jude. This is another thing that I'm trying to build for my routine. This is for my personal thing. Like, what are all the routines or habits that I want to build? Yep. So this is another thing for what was the Twitter algorithm. So Akash Gupta is a great guy. He writes about how Twitter works, and he wrote a Twitter thread, and I created a mind map of it. Types of visuals, etc., etc. So yeah. So basically, I just wanted to show how the mind map looks. OG of Solo, of course, yeah. So there is a central topic. It could be the title of the book or title of the article or title of the podcast. And there are notes that is branching out from it. So basically, so otherwise what we will do is that we will write it linearly, right? We will write the note on top of the page. Then you have note point one, then point 1.1, then point 1.1.1 like that. So instead of writing it in an outline format, we basically spread it out on this one. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Do you think there is some merit in doing it? If you think so, can you put it on the chat? What do you think it benefits? Why do you think it benefits? Quick recall. Aniket says it's quick recall. Help in decluttering the thoughts. That's like fantastic point. Condense the thoughts, exactly. So so decluttering, it facilitates both divergent thinking as well as convergent thinking. So brilliant. Condensing thoughts, I think of like convergent thinking, like summarizing, synthesizing, distilling. Fantastic. Anything else? Handy for presentation, of course. I'll wait for 2 more points. Limitless thoughts. Roshan, I'm going to ask you what that means. Provide structure to thoughts. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay. Sometimes our thoughts could be disorganized, and mind map inherently and very subtly, there is an inherent hierarchy within it. So there is a central topic, there is a subtopic, there is a subtopic, there is a subtopic. Sometimes they call it as parent node, child node, sibling node, etc., etc. So the point being that it gives a very subtle way of structuring it. And one other beautiful thing that happens is that, hey Sathya, this also happens in linear note taking, right? Why mind mapping? The beauty is that on a linear note-taking format, like say a Word document or a Notion document, or an Evernote, whatever your note-taking app for that matter, if you write it, you're looking like this, top down. So you have to scroll down after a point of time to see the 25th idea when you have the first idea, second idea, third idea, something like that. The beauty of the mind map is that it's on a plain canvas. So you can see the first idea and the 25th idea on the same canvas, which unfortunately a linear note-taking structure doesn't offer. Then what happens is that you can take a sub-idea from idea 1 node and mix it with idea 25. So, and regroup it, refactor it. So this concept of regrouping, refactoring is such an important concept. Suddenly you can organize some ideas there and reorganize it somewhere. So that's a point of mind mapping, and it also has the zoom in and zoom out effect. So that's a point of having this mind map. So it seems that we can actually close the session because a lot of people already know what mind mapping can do or something. But just to share my own ideas a little bit more, I'll give you another big exercise. Aniket, can you tell me if you can see my presentation? Explain the presentation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we will now actually create a mind map about this workshop. Okay. So I'm calling this as KWL mind map. Okay. This is inspired by education philosophy called, like, it's a graphic organizer. KWL method is a graphic organizer. K means know, W means want to know, L means what you learn. So it's a pre-reading and post-reading exercise, which helps you to remember, retain, take notes of what all you're reading. Okay. So what I want you to do is that, and also it's actually another method that was proposed by this guy. I hope most of you might have heard of him, Sean Parrish. If you know this guy, can you give a thumbs up in the chat? He writes this brilliant blog called Farnham Street, and he's a book nerd, obviously, like most of us. So he reads a lot, he summarizes a lot. Whatever he summarizes and learns, he shares it on his blog. Do you know this? If at all, you just search for Farnham Street. It's a brilliant, right? So he talks about this blank sheet method, which is a the technique that we are going to talk about. So what I want to do is that want you to do is that write the name of the workshop in the center. Okay, so basically you can write it as Sathya's workshop, and in the first note, inspiration is not needed. First note, no. First note, right? First node, I mean, so this is called a node, right? No. So the question that you want to answer under this is that what do I already know about mind mapping and using mind mapping for note taking? Take a blank sheet of paper, keep it in landscape format like this that I'm having. Okay, then write Sathya's workshop in the center. Write K, W, L on the three parts. And now just do this alone. What do you know already about using mind mapping for note taking? I'll give you like 2 minutes. I want you to do it now if you guys don't mind it. Piece of paper, write Satya's workshop in the center. K, W, L. So each one will be each node. So the first node of a mind map is called foundational node. So basically it offers you a structure, a template from which you can expand. Like Roshan was telling, you can have your limitless thought. So the current exercise now is write what you already know about mind mapping, about note taking using mind mapping. Fill that first node. So you'll be branching out. I know that mind mapping is good for condensing the thoughts. I know that mind mapping is fun to do. I know that mind mapping is good for decluttering. I know that book notes that currently I'm doing is not helpful. So something like that. Okay, great. If anybody has done, like, can you just show it to us like this? I have a filter, so it's not showing. Oh, great. I see Aniket's one already. Fancy Aniket. Very nice. Basha, Ritika, Prerna, Aditi, Roshan. If you want to show, if you don't mind, it'll be really useful. Just fill the first node alone. Aniket, can you show it again so that people will be a little confident? Ritika, please go for it. It's not that clear. Can you speak to us about it, Ritika, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So I mean, in the mind mapping, I have written like 4 to 5 points. So one is it's a graphical summary. It's an easy summary it's readily available to reference if for whatever topic I've made the mind map, it's readily available to get the insights of that topic. It's an effective note-taking tool. It structures thoughts. And the last point, as you mentioned, it helps us make new connections.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ritika. We appreciate it. Anyone else? I'll go for one more person. I should go for it. You are on mute, Roshan. Click Alt A, so it'll unmute yourself.
Yeah. So if you could see.
Oh yeah. Great.
So my first point is graphical representation. Second is quick and effective summary. And the most important time is saves time. Point is saves time.
Saves time. Yeah. Brilliant. Let's see if it saves time. Fantastic. Okay. I'll just move on to the next point. So can you see my this one again? So the next one, I want you to fill this one. W is what do you want to learn during this workshop? What you're hoping to learn during this workshop. So next 10-15 minutes is going to be about that. What do you want to learn during this workshop? I'll give you another 2 minutes. So in K, we wrote, what do we already know? In W, we are going to write about what do we want to learn? It could be a question that you might have. It could be an idea that you read somewhere that you want to explore and validate here, etc., etc. Obviously about the topic of discussion. Whenever you're ready, just raise your hand. I mean, there is a reaction to raise your hand, so I'll pick on you. Oh, Prana is ready, already ready. Prana, do you want to talk about it, if you don't mind? Really appreciate it. You're on mute.
So what do I want to learn?
Mm.
So whenever I'm reading a book, it's very difficult to note down so many important points, etc. So I want to write a book summary. For that, I want to use a mind map.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Okay.
So can we write, like, I don't know, like what else? Even I don't know, like, how can I make use of it if it is related to book? Like in my profession, I do use it.
Okay.
As a teacher, as a revision tool, we use a lot with children.
Oh, great. You're a teacher. I was a teacher as well. So great. I'll talk about that. Like I'll give you like a couple of mental frameworks that I use where you can employ mind mapping for book summaries and synthesis. Yeah. Anyone else? Any other volunteer? Ritika, thanks for finishing. Ritika, I'll pick someone else. Please don't mind. Thank you.
Can I write my questions on the chat though?
Oh, please, that'll be fantastic. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. Please, it'll help. We are basically learning from each other. So yeah. Roshan, Pramod, please go for it. Roshan, we are not able to hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm actually traveling, so I will not be able to.
Oh, it's okay, Roshan. Yeah, it's okay, Roshan. It's okay. Yeah. We'll pick on someone else.
Are you able to hear me?
Pramod, now we are well and good.
Okay, that's right, probably. So I've used mind map for some of my office work. I also mentioned one more point in the learning, which is I know the software as well. I use Mind Manager for that.
Oh, great.
But what I'm really looking forward to learn is the best practices around it, because I have gone in circles with this, right? To what level, what node I should break it down. And then I see that, oh, it has a relation up there. I know you can create those relations, but it doesn't work for me. So I've written 3 points, basically: best practices to simplify it, to what detail we can go, and how not to go in circles.
Okay. I hope I'll try to answer that question. But yeah, if you don't mind, Pramod, can you show the mind map like on this one? I think your filter may not allow. Yeah, but yeah, it's okay. Okay. Can you, if you can download the image, you can post
you can bring
the image
it in front of you, so you can bring it in front of face as well. So yeah.
So I started doing in the Mind Manager itself. Then I thought maybe let me get rid of the background. One moment, please.
Okay. I mean, one thing is talking about it, one thing is showing, right? There's something happens in our brain, it makes the connection.
Yeah. So I started, are you able to see now? Yeah, right?
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So
little bit center. Yeah. Got it. Yeah. Then now we will continue this one. Then the third note that you want to explore is learn. I think you might have guessed it. So this would be something which will be done at the end of the session. And I really hope you'll be able to do this and tag me and Aniket and share it on social media. So what did you learn? What was the surprise? What was a surprise thing that you learned after the workshop? I hope you'll have a couple of points as a surprise that you learned at the end of the workshop. So basically, the point is that this we are doing it for the workshop. Can we? I'm just giving you a like priming you for this a thought. Can you think of using this while you're reading a book or a chapter of a book or an article? Before you read the book, you do a mind map, saying that what are all the things you do, what are all the things that you know. After you, before reading, even before reading, another thing, then what are all the things that you hope to read from the book? Okay. Then finally, in the third, after you read the book, maybe completing a book is too long an affair. Maybe reading a chapter and stopping at the chapter and say, I wanted to learn something from this chapter. These are all the things that I learned. You can do a mind map. I'll show you another article, which I kept it open. So Sean Paris does it little differently. Can you see the article? So he talks about how he takes mind map to take notes. So this is how he does it. So he basically uses different colors for different this one. So what I already know is in black color. Then what I want to know, then what I learned afterwards. So green is what he learned after he read the book. Okay. Can you see this mind map? If you guys are, yeah, it's a brilliant way of reading. It's so subtle, simple. That's all you need. But the point is that you need to prime it before you. I'm going to share this article here. Okay, does that make sense? So that's another idea that you can think of using it. Then I want to come back to my workshop presentation.
Sathya, there's a broader question in the chat also. Maybe you can look at that also.
Yeah, please. Daily use cases of mind map, for example. Yeah, digital mapping tools. Yeah, I'll talk about that. Yeah, I'll come. So I'll talk about the main part of the workshop itself. So in mind mapping, even if you're not doing mind mapping or any other way of note taking, I usually think of taking notes in 3 different levels. So one thing is actually taking book notes. Another is summarization. Another is synthesis. Not many people think of these 3 things as 3 different parts of reading book or reading an article, something like that. But for me, this actually helps in trying to read the book far better. So in terms of first one, taking book notes. So I preferably would book notes. Many of the time, this is what we assume as taking book summary. It's actually not so. But what I talk about book notes is basically taking highlights, taking quotes from the book. I think somebody is unmuted. It's not muted. Can you mute yourself, please? Yeah, thank you. So book notes could be highlights, could be quotes, taking directly verbatim from whatever book that you're reading. And in terms of note-taking terminology, it's called literature notes. So if you have read the book, How to Take Smart Notes, he calls them as literature notes. You are just taking whatever idea that you liked from the book, and you're basically copy pasting on your Notion, Evernote or something like that. Readwise does it. Readwise does this. So this is book notes. This is actually not book summary. Okay, I would actually argue otherwise that book notes, you better not take book notes. Okay, it is not useless. It is not useful enough. So you need to graduate yourself to the next level of note taking, which I call it as book summary, which would be my preferred way of taking notes. So now you already read something. This way, what I try to do is that I try to reword whatever I have learned from the book in my own words. not from the author, but in my own words. I may have the highlight, I may have the quote from the author also stored in my mind map or in my note-taking app or whatever it might be, but I take the effort to actually reword whatever I have learned it in my own words, based on my understanding, based on my interpretation of it. Okay, so this is something which is little more time consuming, but it is far more useful because you are basically anchoring the particular idea into your brain and making that idea your idea. And mind mapping is a great way to do that. Okay, I'll quickly show you this example that I have of. And I come back to this because it's so useful, and I'm actually building an app and growing it, so it's helpful in that way. So this is a book note. Okay, so the book is by, the name of the book is Make, by this wonderful indie maker called Peter Levels. Okay, so he is an indie maker, as I said earlier, and all those things. So what I am taking, this mind map is actually a book note. It's not a book summary. So what I have done is that I have taken different chapters from the book, okay, and I put it across as each note. So part 1 is forward, part 2 is, I think I deleted it, I don't know. Part 3 is build, I think part 2 is idea. Part 3 is build, part 4 is this one. So each of them is basically chapters. And what I have done is that I have taken no efforts. I've taken the points that I remember from the book and basically put it. It's not my own words, it's Peter Level's words. Okay. What are all the things that he has written? And this one. So this book idea is there is introduction, there is solve your problem. So there's basically subheadings in that particular chapter. Again, to repeat again, these are all not my words, these are all Peter Level's words. Okay, but this is not what I want. Okay, this book note is what I want, because I don't understand what it is directly. I have not made the content of the book into my own knowledge ecosystem. Then what I do is that I did this. Now, if you can see, this is actually a book summary. I'm not simply taking the notes from the book. I am analyzing it, I'm assimilating it. And what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to make the ideas, the content and the concepts in the note into my own this one. So I've basically, these are all the ideas that I liked from the book and made it into each notes. And what I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to make this one. So idea is apparently one chapter, and I get idea from problems in your own life. Don't build products that are solutions in search of a problem. So this is the particular very, very important point that I want to remember from this particular chapter. Similarly, building. Use tools you already know. So like creators, what we do is that we end up going and learning a new tool or something like that. And we spend more time mastering that new tool rather than actually building the product. So this is the thing. Don't waste time learning new stuff. Outsource building to other people if you can. Do only the core function, rest later. So this is the key point. Don't and do's. So he talks about it. So this is the key point. I want to take it from the book. Okay, like that. Similarly for launch, similarly for grow, similarly for monetize, similarly for automate, similarly for ethics, similarly for homework. Okay, can you see this? Now I don't have to go and reread the book. The book is here. Not only that, the book has become part of my knowledge ecosystem. The ideas and the concepts of the book has become part of my system. So this is what I want you to achieve. Not simply highlight, not simply take book notes. At least this is how I look at book summary. Does that make sense? I'll pause for that second. What is your impression of it? Do you have any questions?
Hi Sathya, Aditi here. I have a question. So
Please.
the mind map which you just showed, there the pointers which you have noted down are very like crisp and brief. So if I suppose if I read the book today and if I create this mind map, after 1 year, if I open the mind map, will I be really able to recall like, because the pointers are so brief?
Yeah, exactly. So this is a problem that the mind map could actually create. Since you're noting down only keywords for any note taking, for example, you're taking notes, you don't know the context from where the note is coming from. So that is why Tiger Forte talks about progressive summary, right? So the summary is inside the larger this one. So what I do is that I keep book notes as well as the book summary, preferably on the same file. So I showed the first one is book notes. The second one is this one. On the other hand, there is also a pro to it. If you forget the idea, I mean, this could be very controversial. If you forget the idea, maybe the idea is not important to you. Okay. Second thing is that if you have to take the mental effort to remember that idea, that means you are strengthening the memory of it also. So it could actually work both ways around. It will not, maybe you are unable to remember it quickly. Again, we are not doing mind map to write an exam. We are not doing this mind map to remember and to like an entrance exam or something like that. We are doing this mind map so that the notes, the concepts become part of our ecosystem. I don't want a second brain to refer a second brain to pull the idea from it. I want it in my first brain. Again, as I said, it's a controversial idea, but I want it to be part of my thinking process in such a way that I can actually pull it out from anytime, anywhere I want. So I'll talk about that a little later in synthesis. But of course, there is a pro and con. I may not remember that idea that I want to remember, but take it with a caveat. Maybe your brain didn't think it is important to remember it. The second thing is that if just a keyword is presented, maybe it is an excuse for you to go back and reread that idea. That means it is strengthening that memory lane. So pros and cons. There is both pros and cons, but I actually consider it as a positive thing because brain is telling me that it's an idea that is a redundant idea. I can throw it out. So.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Somebody put a question. Our mind is an expert at osmosis. Great. Keeps what it needs and discard what we don't. Yeah. Unfortunately, your note-taking app keeps both what you don't want and what you want. That's a problem with note-taking apps. But you need to be very careful about it. So yeah. Any other impressions, questions? It need not be a question. It could be just impression of those things. Okay, Sathya, this reminds me of something. Like that could also be as simple as a point that you can share here.
So Sathya, just trying to see if I'll be using it for a book, right? So I mean, my first impression is that book itself comes a little bit structured. So I'm just trying to see if I'll be doing it for this purpose or not. But yes, I mean, from a utility perspective and the structured approach that you're talking about, I think it makes a lot of sense. But yes, I mean, personally at my level, I don't know whether I'll do that. Probably I'll end up writing for better retention than doing a digital mind mapping for a book.
Oh yeah. So I'm a big fan of analog things. So what I suggest is that, like even this workshop, for example, I've made 3 mind maps. So on an A4 sheet. So this is the first one. This is the second one. There's a fourth one. And what you're seeing actually now is like the 5th or the 6th iteration. So I actually prefer to put it on this one, then later come back and do it on a digital thing. The digital thing is that you can move parts around, and whether we like it or not, tool has its own way, it helps us process and look at the material in a different way. Right? So I wouldn't say that analog is better, digital is better or something. Whichever works for you, do it. For long-term storage, if you like it, you can put it on a digital tool as well. Again, no hard and fast rule.
Right.
I have a question, Satya.
Yeah.
So suppose we are reading, some work-related book, which is maybe very heavy on content. It's not like a non-fiction, so it's not a fiction. So if it is very heavy on content, and it seems like the content is very, very important. So there will be a problem like with me, how to filter out the important content, and then what all to go into the mind map, so that mind map is a mirror of the book also, and I'm not losing out on the important points also. So how do we make that decision?
Okay, I may not be the right person to answer it because I think the
Okay.
filtering you may have to do based on that. But another way of doing is like tactical way of doing is that I'll tell you how to do this. So this is the thing. So even I deleted this one. So even before I do a book summary, so what I do is that name of the book and chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, and all those things. I do a skim reading. Then I write the quotes, highlights, and all those things I write it. Then most probably to preserve the depth of the content. So that is what I believe, Prana, you are trying to ask. What I actually try to do is that I even try to create a mind map for one chapter, one specific chapter per se. Okay, one chapter, then I go back, then do another chapter. If at all, I think the book is really heavy, and more importantly, I want to preserve such wonderful content from the book. Okay, that means what I'll do is that I'll do like this kind of a breakage. Okay, each chapter would itself have a interesting individual mind map. And in Xmind, so the app, the Xmind, the mind mapping app that I'm using is called Xmind. What you can do is that you can drill down upon a mind map. So for example, this is chapter 3. This is one single mind map. Chapter 3, right click, new sheet from the topic. If I click this new sheet from the topic, it will create a mind map of its own. And if you can see in the bottom, just a second. If you can see in the bottom, so there is this chapter 1, there is one mind map. Chapter 2, there's one mind map. Chapter 3, there's one mind map. And it creates the same, it creates a new mind map from each node. And if I click this link, it'll go back to that original thing. So you have chains of mind maps. And you can go deep as you want to. So that is something you can do it tactically. But I may not be the right person to answer which one to filter and which one not to filter. But I think that's a very personal choice. Maybe Aniket could talk about it. But this is how I would, if there is a really good book that I really want to get into, I would usually do this kind of in-depth summary and then put it on this one. Then after that, I'll do a book note. Then after taking a book note, I'll do a book summary of it. Is that sort of gives you a tactical answer to it?
Yes, I think chapter wise, or maybe, main chapters, and then the bifurcation is making it easy.
Correct. In fact, like Aniket was actually telling me a suggestion, like for example, you read 2-3 pages of your chapter, and at the end of the chapter, there may be some space. Instead of writing it as linear notes, you can actually draw it as a mind map at the end of each chapter. That's yeah. Please, Aniket, do you want to talk about it?
Right now I was reading this National Curriculum Framework, and it is a heavy book.
Of course,
28 pages. So I want to use and make it a mind map of that, and it's very heavy on content.
Correct. And I think that mind map will help a lot of other teachers and educators. I'm sure you can actually share it. Yes. Yeah, it'll definitely do. So like I think Pramod was the one who mentioned it. So there's already a structure in a non-fiction material. So you can put the headings as each node, and you can drill down on each node. So chapter wise, then section wise, then chapter wise, then within the chapter heading wise, then subheading wise, you can do all those things. You can do that. Then finally, what will have is that you will have this meta map. Then you will have small maps within that map. So you can you can do that. Yeah. Ritika, you have a question or a question? Yeah.
So building on Prerna's question, so if assuming the book is not very heavy, and let's take a standard 250-300 page book, how long will this process take, let's say, and how many iterations will it, does it typically take for you, let's say? And also understand you are pretty advanced and we may take more time, but
maybe another way is that like I'm actually very lazy, so I want the quickest solution possible. So many times I actually prefer to read a existing book summary and take a mind map of it. And if I like the summary and if I like the process of making a mind map, I dive into the book. So that's how I preferably like sort of screen and do that. Then that means I already have a mind map before I dive into the book. So I'm reading The Subtle Art of by Mark Manson. I already am creating a mind map from the existing summary that is available on the internet. There is a plethora of summaries about the book. So I already have a skeletal structure of it. then I go and do that, if at all helps. If there is no summary available, usually the content page and all those things. And most of the books, I think they have this like key summaries or points at the end of the book. I think Atomic Habit has, Tiny Habits. So all those books have that, this one. So you read that. So how can I get the quick within the limited amount of time that is available? Again, let me talk about the concept of book synthesis. Maybe the point is not to create book summary. So I think that's something, the point is not to create book summary. The point is to assimilate the concepts from the book into my personal knowledge system. I think they are two different, I think people misunderstand that. And I would prefer the alternate thing. I don't want to create a book summary. I want to incorporate the concepts into this one. So this is actually a segue into the next concept that I'm talking about. So I call this as book synthesis. Okay. As I already told, there are 3 levels of book notes that you can take. So one is the book notes itself, which is basically verbatim literature notes. The second is the book summary that you are writing in your own words. Then the third thing that which I preferably want you all to remember is that not just the book concepts, but what are all the connections that this book concept gives you? What are all the agreements and disagreements? What are all the practical application that you want to do? So let me show you the mind map of it. So you should be, let me do this. Make it so that it's far better to present. Okay. So after reading the book, okay, after I made the mind map book summary, not just the book notes, book summary, I want to assimilate those concepts into my own personal knowledge system. So I want to like this one. So what I try to do is that I try to think of what does this remind me of in real life. So it's text to life connection. What are all the other books or literature that it reminds me of? Hey, for example, Mark Manson's book actually reminded me of the book Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I found a lot of story concepts written in a more contemporary way in Mark Manson. Mark Manson didn't write it out as a stoic book, but if you read it, you will understand that I'm trying to like seeing that like Mark Manson comes from a anti-law of attraction person because there's too much law of attraction, anti-goals person, and comes with this very stoic perspective on those things. So this is reminding me of this one. So this is what I want to assimilate. So then what are all the similarities of this book with another book or another article or another author or something like that. So this connections and association, I'm not trying to make connections like this, okay, like this in a mind map or something like that. This is just very, very childish way of making connections. Okay, this is not I'm looking at. I'm looking at a very conceptual level of making similarity. What is the similarity between the book, between the author Mark Manson and Ryan Holiday? And not only that, Ryan Holiday reminds me of another this is a client that I worked with. So he is actually a coach for entrepreneurs, and he worked with Tony Robbins. He is a person who is very big on stoicism, but he says that stoicism is an incomplete philosophy, and he also includes another thing called Zen. So he combines Zen and stoicism. Zen is a good complement to so he calls this as Zen stoic philosophy kind of a thing. And he runs a thing called liberation mission. So this is something that reminds me of that. So when I take a note or something like that, I'll preferably want to synthesize it this way. Okay. And I also want to write this one. What you like about it, what you don't like about it. Most of the time, the synthesis, I don't preserve those synthesis. I usually write it in a notebook and throw it away. But the idea is that like I just wanted to keep it in my head and I'm arguing with the book. What are all the things that I like about the book? What are the things that I don't like about the book? I simply don't like the too much effort that is being used in Mark Manson's thing. There are better ways of writing it. So that is something I prefer. Somebody like it, somebody may not like it. So you can do it. Another thing, for example, I still remember, like, look at this, it's making a connection. I don't like Ryan Holiday as an author. The problem, again, please beg to disagree, but again, I'm giving my thought, because Ryan Holiday has little or no real life experience. And he talks as if he's an emperor of a big empire or something like that. He's just a 30-year-old dude who's read books and like talking about taking experience from others. So obstacle is the way it clearly comes out that he lacks real life experience. Again, the point I'm talking about is not about Ryan Holiday. The point that I'm able to make a connection. This reminds me of this. This reminds me of this. This is a disagreement that I have with this author, kind of thing. So this is the kind of thing that, and I'm not looking at some second brain. I'm not looking at some Notion document to make this connection. It is automatically coming in my head. So this is what I would want every one of you to have this. And finally, obviously, there are books which are very, very practical. For example, the book Make, I'm actually using that to launch my app. I'm actually have launched my app and trying to see whether how far I can use it in this one. What are the lessons learned? How can I apply in my personal life, in my business life, and all those things. So this is actually the part I personally would want everyone to do. So the point is not to make a beautiful mind map or a book summary. The point is, what is the book? What is the lesson that I can take and immediately apply? Becomes part of my first brain, for the lack of better way of saying it. Yeah. What is your impression? What is your... Oh, thanks, Aditi. Excellent mind map for books. Thank you. Any questions, any impressions, any doubts, any clarification, any connections, associations, disagreements that is coming in your head? But actually, I would prefer disagreements, because that if it is a disagreement, you can actually remember the concept better. Thank you. It was very good. Process of recalling these mind maps. Coach, we just talked about it. The point is, Aniket, do you want to quote that? Aniket has a beautiful quote. So Coach is asking, Coach Shahida is asking, do you have any tips around the process of recalling these mind maps? So the point is not get into this idea of recalling. And Aniket, there's a good quote. Aniket, do you want to share it?
The one which I shared earlier?
Yeah, I think Coach Shahida just came now.
Yeah, so it's our mind is an expert at osmosis, keeps what it needs and discard what we don't. So in fact, if you have built a mind map, that is where way of your process is happening. It's Mondays to Fridays, you're reading. Saturday and Sunday could be your synthesizing days, could be the days where you can leverage some more slowness of your life to go deep into your thoughts with the book. So that's the only process I would recommend, but obviously not overdoing any of it. In fact, if we try to overdo a mind map, it will become a counterproductive process.
Exactly.
I think that is where this lean thinking concept keeps coming in now and again. Keep it simple, keep it savvy for you. And I think one of the questions also came, how much time it takes to build a mind map. I think the philosophy again is, if you try to go too deep into it, it will take hours. That's the point. And if you try to make it at the end of a chapter, you already know there's very limited space. Like, I'm about to make a mind map for this chapter called Dramatize. Okay, of how to. I've got only the space. If I make those mind maps, I will run short of 6 or 7 points. But if you think of it, I read a chapter and now immediately made a mind map. And later on, when I'm having more time to me, I can just take content from it and build onto a bigger mind map, which is like part 1 of this book, part 2 of this book. So yeah, that's the take.
Yeah. I hope Shahida it answers. The point is not to create a beautiful mind map or a book summary. The point is to assimilate the concepts from the book into my decision, and mind map is just another tool. If it works for you. It's not. So the process is important, not the outcome of the process. So the process of mind mapping is important and assimilation is important, not creating a beautiful mind map, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any impression? I think we are almost at the end of the session.
I think one thing I was very amazed to see that you have. Are you using a free subscription of XMind, or are you?
Well, I have a paid subscription. I'm actually an ambassador for XMind. so I'm sitting on my desktop. So the other one has a paid subscription. I think currently they have a 30% offer or something like that. But again, you don't need a paid version. You can simply use this version itself. I need it because I make this kind of presentations.
That point really caught my attention, that you don't have to buy a new tool where you made a summary for Peter Level's book.
Correct.
Now you're talking about an example, but I'm here learning a huge takeaway. without having read a book, but just from this session, which is again not part of the session, that a lot of time gets spent in trying to learn a new thing. And I am also guilty of sharing this in this particular month where, I've been talking about Notion, I've been talking about ReadWise, I've been talking about AudioPen with all my readers. And maybe that comes natural to me and I want them to, start using these tools. But it made me reflect that it could also be that it's again adding another thing to do, another thing to do, another thing to do, add mind maps onto it, another thing to do. So just like you said about the books, right? Associations. Yeah, I'm also making associations. So your mind actually works in a mind map way. I'm
Correct,
making
correct.
associations beyond a session. So I really see a beauty of, attending to a workshop like this and then making note of it somewhere. And what better way to, quickly put up a circle saying associations and trying to do too many things and make it. So let me quickly make one.
Very good, very good. Thank you. Any other impressions, questions, doubts, clarification would love to? Yeah, KP member. Is there a name for you?
Yeah, Puneet, it's Puneet.
Puneet, hey, Puneet. Okay. If you want to type your questions or impressions on the chat, you can do that as well. I'll try to answer the questions.
Okay, and no one else has a question. So, Sathya, what I would like to, okay, Sini has a question, but in the meanwhile, what I would like you to do is, something which we can start applying this for, so that maybe we can apply some. I know you're doing visual 30, so you can give some actionable tip, and by the time we reconvene, there is something that you can give a feedback to the particular reader who's sharing their mind map. So just something to action upon and for our next part.
Oh yeah, I would really love to. So that's actually one of my CTA. So if you guys are like really up for it, what we can do is that we can do like a small challenge, online challenge or something like that. So remember the first mind map that you did, KWL mind map. Okay. So now it's time to finish the last node, right? So I'll give you 2 minutes. Can you finish that node? So we already wrote what your K, what you already know. Then for W, what you want to learn. And now the third node, what did you actually learn now? What was the thing that caught you by surprise? What are the things that you disagree? Please note that also. Okay. In fact, that will actually be far more important. That means it's giving you pointers to go and learn further about mind mapping or something like that. Sometimes I believe this contradiction and confusion is beneficial because that means your mind is alive, mind is thinking, and you'll be looking out for the solution. So in fact, that's the reason why, for example, Pramod came here. So because he's going in circles and circles, and I hope I didn't spin him even further. but that's the point, right? That thing is there. So last node, remember the KWL node. If you don't mind, can you complete it? Yeah. In the meanwhile, I'll try to answer these two questions. Can mind maps be used to get a design solution? You mean design a solution? Yeah, of course. So even for personal or business problems, I try to use mind maps to do planning for it. What is the goal for it? What is the obstacles that I currently face, etc., etc. So you can definitely use a mind map for planning your project, in fact. And you can even do a post-mortem of a project that you completed. These are all the things that happen nicely. These are all the things that did not happen well. These are all the things that you should avoid for the next project. So you can do all those things in a mind map format. The good thing about mind map is that you can jump from one point to another point whenever the idea flows. So the mind doesn't think of 1, 2, 3 points, right? It thinks of point 1, then goes to point 5, point 25, point 63, all those things. So mind map helps you to quickly capture those ideas, then organize and reorganize and all those things. Okay. How do you arrange mind maps for retrieval, especially the paper ones? So for long-term storage, I preferably convert the paper node mind map into a digital mind map. So that is something you can think of doing. Some people even what they do is that they use mind mapping and do the non-linear mind mapping on a paper. Then they convert the non-linear map into a linear node on Evernote or Notion. So they employ both types of things, because linear nodes are unfortunately or fortunately easier to store for retrieval. That's the thing. How do you arrange mind maps or paper ones? How do you make mind maps or articles threads or something? The same thing I think I showed. So consider each heading as a chapter in a book, and you summarize it, each of those points. Yeah. Some people, I even know another friend for retrieval, he'll just take a photograph of that mind map and just sends it to his email. So he knows he'll have like an email attachment of multiple mind maps. So whenever he wants to, he'll search on his email and just look at it and open it. So he'll just remember it. That's all. You don't need to have a very, very fancy mind mapping. Again, this is what I prefer. If you want an elaborate version, I can always try to do it. Yeah, anybody wants to share there, what did they learn? Mind map? So the third node. Anybody wants to volunteer? I think Shahida, you weren't there. So we were actually doing a mind map earlier. I think this recording, if you look at the recording, it might help. So anybody wants to share it? Yeah, Aniket. Aniket, can you read it for us if you don't mind?
If I can read it on my own.
Yeah, just read 3 points, Aniket. Just
So
read.
one of my big, what caught me by surprise was essentially not a surprise, now more of a reflection. Book notes and book summaries are different. So what the process I use for STAR framework of scribbling within the book, it's now actually book notes within the book itself. So now I don't need to put it onto another Notion page. I would rather lift it from there and make summary in form of mind map. So save a lot of time in doing so. Connection and association during synthesis process was incredible in the sense this is where you're cross connecting your thoughts and different books and ideas, and that's where you're building your own new idea, giving new seed, planting a new seed of new idea. I like what you mentioned in between was combine linear notes with a mind map to emphasize on context, which is when one of the readers asked a question, how do you recall when you have just have a mind map a year later, which I think it was Aditi's question. That's where, it really struck me that, I could have a Notion page, or I could not even Notion page, just a Word document, which is that having a digital note will help. Just quick notes of the book from maybe chapter wise or a part wise, and right below that there's a mind map. So I could, do a little bit of this, and maybe every month or every quarter I could just set some time to just have a glance of it, and that really refresh my knowledge. So that's where I'm using mind maps to keep it practically. Of course, keep mind map lean. That's my personal takeaway.
Great. Thanks, man. And Prerna has a fantastic way. So like take notes, both for lighter and heavier content. Exactly. So Prerna, I'll be looking forward to your NCF mind map summary. By the way, I was a teacher. I was working with a fellowship called Teach for India. Then later worked in a couple of education startups. I believe that's where I discovered that I have a visual brain. so I'll be looking forward to your NCF thing. Tag me. So I hope you're on my connections in this one also. So if you guys don't mind, whatever mind map that you create.
That's a lot of homework.
Just one homework. Tag me when you share your mind map on Twitter, and that will be really helpful. So I would really like to see what and I'll roast your mind map if you want to. I can say, like, hey, you did this wrongly. I'll do that in this one. So yeah. So Aniket just shared my LinkedIn.
I'm not pretty certain not everyone will be on Twitter. That's the LinkedIn link first. Then I'll just share the Twitter link, and then after the session, you can go and check out his Y Visuals app as well. Pretty nifty way of building your own visuals. Perhaps a visual that inspires you. In fact, a code that you really like, you can put it as an AI prompt and see what comes out of it. So
most probably, Aniket, we'll be talking about this in the next session. So I'm a big fan of how you can convert that into visual notes. And I have like this. It's really nice. Like this mind map is one way of looking at the broader structure of a book. Then particular structure you want to anchor it. I use this visuals So why visual is a map. We'll talk about that in the next session in much more
So
detail.
guys, again, the bottom line is don't rush ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
In fact, it need arises. I'll get Sathya to do a part 3 as well in the month of July. But let's build on to a knowledge where essentially, again, as I said at the start of the session, I suck at making notes, and it's too long that I've been comfortable in being sucking at it. No longer, and I'm really putting my attention and eggs into this basket of making notes quickly and effectively, because let me be very honest, and you will also be experiencing this. Our memory is very finite, and our brain discards what we are not using. So without even us realizing, we might have forgotten even the best of the book we read maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. So let's start making notes. You've already taken the philosophy that whatever works for you, use. Don't go too deep. Don't go too fancy. You don't have to use a tool. You can use a pen and paper, and start making notes chapter wise or maybe even part wise, whichever you're comfortable with. But long story short, if we can, Satya, share the summary of Make by Peter levels. I have one point to cite from that, and everyone would really have a chuckle there. We can share the summary there.
You want me to share
Yeah,
something?
share your mind map of Peter levels, and point number 7 there.
Oh, okay. Wait, let me just have it open only. Yeah, this one.
Left side, left top.
You mean this one?
Act. Don't just read.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So act upon it. Yeah, correct.
So
So somebody's making connections.
yeah, I think that is the point of making visual notes. Your mind instantly captures something. You didn't even stress onto it. You didn't even go to point 7, but my mind.
Exactly. It just goes, I think. By the way, if you don't mind, Aniket, I just want to close the session with another one thing. So I'm actually doing another workshop, upcoming workshop on visual learning broadly, which is an open workshop. I think me and Aniket will do even more elaborate open sessions eventually. So currently I'm doing it with my co-founder. So it's on May 24th. That's coming on May 24th. And just for this community, I'm offering it at a 40% discount. So I'm just shared that thing. This one, if you're interested, I would be happy to see you there, and we'll talk about more about mind mapping, visual tools. It's a 2-hour session, and not just from book or note-taking point of view, but generally in an accelerated learning point of view. So that's the thing, and really appreciate Aniket for having me here during the session. Yeah. You're on mute, Aniket.
The ingenious of a discount code. Okay, that's
yeah. So that's my co-founder. You have to blame my co-founder.
Yeah.
Tana Sendaputam.
I think Tamil as a language has been leveraged here so that no one just blindly copies and pastes the discount. Like I need to, come up with a scripted discount code. I just use early bird and everyone can use early bird.
So the word Katral means in Tamil, it means learning. So it's learning. So we wanted to name it in a fancy way. So we are learning using visual first approach to learning.
So yeah, anyone, I'll share the link on the Readers Club as well. So if anyone wants to, go all eggs in and go learn from Arvind and Sathya, you can. And of course, we'll be back again for the next part of this session in the month of June. So Sathya and I will be having a nice interaction after this to finalize on the date, because I'm pretty certain everyone else will be waiting for it. So one last bit here, I know just one more minute. Just put on the chat, what is one sentence takeaway for you, okay, of last 1 hour, 10 minutes that you've been in this workshop? What is one major takeaway for you? Just put it on the chat.
Effective tool. Thank you.
And yeah, while you all do so, if you can also start switching on your camera as well for those who are not on it, I can take
Visuals make an impact. Definitely, Puneet. I can't agree more. So.
Yeah, let's quickly get on to with that. So Aditi, Ginny, Vaishali, Puneet, Shahida, Pramod, Smita. If you can switch on your camera as well.
You can definitely
uh,
yeah, correct, Ritika. So,
yeah.
again, just to add on to Ritika's point, I'm sorry I couldn't stop myself talking about it. I'm just too passionate about mind mapping and all those things. People assume that only if you're a visual learner or thinker, you should use mind map. It's not like that. Everybody can use it. You're just like leveraging different parts of the brain, just like Ritika mentioned. So just you can use mind maps with reading notes as well. So really appreciate it.
Okay, most of the people have already switched on the camera. So I'll take normal photo. Okay, normal. Everyone keep smiling. So, part of the process is here. So keep smiling. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now you can come up with your pose. Okay. You like the session. You can want.
Man, no, don't give them pointers, I guess.
So whichever way you like the session, you can go ahead and I'll take another screenshot there.
Simple thumbs up.
And last but not the least, your mind map. Okay. I'm going to come up with my mind map and whatever can be captured. Okay. So I hope I don't drop the iPad.
This is the mind map of the workshop.
Yeah. Okay. Sathya, you might have to keep it right in front of you so that the blur doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. One more. Great stuff.
Great.
So one small ask to all of the readers here. That comes from again one of my personal admission that we are hosting these workshops, and I know you would have those who attended the last Sunday, those who attended this Sunday, can already see that these sessions help. Okay. Again, our mind is an osmosis. You might not take everything out of the session, but even if you take one thing out of session, it changes you as a reader, it changes you as a human being as well. So as you can see, we have 110 readers in the Readers Club and barely 10 to 12 attended. Now the intention is, as we do more of these sessions, the more the people can join in, the better it will be. It's a free club right now, yes, but if people start making use of things for free, then they will really value things for that really come at a price. So I know Free Kamal is already on the other side of the topic here, but just drop in a note as well into the Readers Club as well. Maybe you can just copy paste what you shared here on the chat. You can copy paste there and just encourage people to join in. So when you say it was a brilliant session, I look forward to the next one. This also makes those who did not join in have a little bit of FOMO of a good kind, so that the next session when I share in potentially of May 21st, they'll be very eager to join in as well. So it's all in for learning. It's all in for in enhancing our knowledge and up leveling as a reader. I have certainly did. So thank you, Sathya, for coming in and enlightening us with mind maps. I will certainly keep making these mind maps. I'm gonna put a mind map question every now and then into the readers.
Sure.
Pretty certain the mind maps will be made of these two books. Okay, and believe it or not, if you really make great mind maps of any of this book and put on LinkedIn, chances are that the author himself might repost
Exactly. That's another thing. Yeah.
So
definitely.
anyone who's here to build a personal brand, anyone here who's doing something and sharing on the internet, you won't know what kind of a rewards wait for you. You might not get any reward, but by building something, you already have rewarded yourself. So that's a bonus. Yeah, so that's the next two books as well. So for readers in the cohort 24, continue with the Atomic Habits. But if you want to take a challenge, just let me know on a DM. But to members in the Readers Club, these are the two books we are going to read in a very rapid format. This won't take more than 5 days. This won't take more than 7 days. So 2 weeks of reading done and dusted as a run up to our 4th anniversary celebration on 4th June 2023. That's it for this reading. I'll share this quickly a screenshot with all of you as well as Sathya. And again, as Sathya mentioned, tag him on LinkedIn post or Twitter post, whichever you're more comfortable with about this session. And yes, see you very soon in our next session. Happy Sunday.
Thank you guys. Thank you. Happy Sunday. Thanks for coming in. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sathya. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Roman. And I guess we're still recording.
Yeah, I'm just ending it.